Show me what a man thinks about most, and I'll show you the life he is walking toward. It doesn't matter if he believes it or not. The law works the same, like gravity. In this lesson, you and I will look closely at the law that shapes your entire life, the law of thought. You'll see why you are already attracting what you hold in mind, whether wanted or unwanted, and how to turn this power in your favor. You'll learn how to direct your thoughts like a compass, how to guard your mind against the weeds of fear, and how to focus on the ideas and goals that create lasting success. Most people never hear this truth explained clearly. Today, you will. Have you ever noticed that when you worry about something, it seems to grow? Or when you fix your mind on a goal, opportunities seem to appear? Most people dismiss this as coincidence, but it isn't. It's the way life works. Right now, many live in quiet frustration, working hard but not moving forward, because their minds are fixed on the wrong things. The difference between a life of struggle and a life of purpose is not found in luck or talent, but in focus. Over the next half hour, I'm going to show you how this law works, why it never fails, and how you can use it deliberately to build the life you desire. We'll explore the strange secret behind thought, the power of focus, the importance of attitude, and the disciplined practice of holding an image in your mind until it becomes reality. Along the way, I'll share stories and examples that will show you just how practical and simple this truth really is. By the end, you'll know exactly how to shift your focus and by doing so, attract a new kind of future. Let me tell you something that most people never stop to consider. Right now, at this very moment, your entire life is being shaped by the simple act of thinking. Everything you see around you, the home you live in, the clothes you wear, the work you do, even the way other people treat you, was first created in the secret workshop of your mind. And here's what's so often missed. The mind doesn't argue with you, it doesn't make judgments, and it doesn't ask whether what you're planting is good or bad. It simply returns the harvest of whatever seed you put in it. Think of your mind as a fertile field. If you drop in a kernel of corn, the soil will work faithfully to bring forth more corn. If you scatter the seeds of nightshade, a deadly poison, the same soil will give it back in abundance. The soil doesn't care. Its only business is to return to you what you've planted. And so it is with your mind. If you spend your days filling it with thoughts of fear, worry, and doubt, it will give you a life that matches those seeds. But if you plant ideas of courage, purpose, and faith, the mind will return that too quietly, steadily, and with astonishing precision. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds too simple. Could it really be that my life is the sum of what I think about most? Yes, it really is that simple. That's the strangest secret. Most people never learn it, and because they never learn it, they live out their days in frustration, confusion, and quiet disappointment. They work hard, but they work blindly. They rise early, they labor late, and still they wonder why progress always seems just out of reach. The reason is clear. They have never stopped to examine the seeds they're planting in their own minds. Here's the tragedy. Picture two men, both starting out with the same abilities, the same opportunities, even the same desires. One spends his thought on worry, on bills, on what might go wrong, on why he may not be good enough. The other spends his thought on a clear picture of what he wants to accomplish, on ways to serve, on ideas that build instead of destroy. 10 years go by. One has grown bitter and restless, living a life he never really wanted. The other has built a life that's rich, purposeful, and respected. What made the difference? Not luck, not talent, not some mysterious force. It was thought steady, repeated thought, planted day after day until it bore fruit. Most people don't realize they're planting weeds. They speak of their worries. They dwell on what they don't want. They replay old failures in their minds like a broken record. And all the while, their mind is faithfully growing those seeds into the reality they now live in. If you don't like the harvest you're reaping, the answer is not to curse the soil, but to change the seed. Now imagine this for a moment. Suppose you kept a notebook, and for just 1 week you wrote down the thoughts that occupied your mind most often. How many of them would be constructive, creative, and directed toward a clear purpose? And how many would be negative, resentful, or filled with doubt? That notebook would give you a snapshot of the future you're walking toward, because you're moving inevitably toward the dominant thoughts in your own mind. That's why this law is so important. It means you are never truly a victim of circumstance. You may not control every event that happens to you, but you control the thoughts you hold in response to those events. And those thoughts, quiet, invisible, persistent, are what shape the conditions of your life tomorrow. So, the first great principle I want you to take hold of is this: we become what we think about. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always. Your mind is the last unexplored frontier, and it is returning to you, in multiplied form, whatever seeds you choose to plant. And if that sounds almost too powerful to believe, then good, because it means you're beginning to glimpse just how important your thoughts truly are. Here's something most people completely miss. Success isn't something you stumble upon. It isn't something that suddenly appears one morning because fortune happened to smile on you. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Let me say that again, slowly, because it may be the most important definition you will ever hear. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That means success isn't a car or a house or a bank balance. Those are byproducts. Success is simply moving toward, every single day, something you have chosen as your goal, something worthy of your best effort. Most people never make that choice. They live reactively, like a cork floating on the ocean, tossed about by whatever wind or current happens to blow. They take a job because it was available, not because it was aligned with a great purpose. They live where they do, not because they planned it, but because that's where they happen to end up. And because they never chose an ideal, they drift, and drifting never leads anywhere worth going. I've met men who worked for 30 years in the same job, who never once stopped to ask themselves, where am I headed? What do I want from my life? What's my purpose here? They work hard, but without direction, their effort doesn't add up to anything more than survival. Contrast that with the rare individual who has made a clear decision about his or her life. This person has chosen a worthy ideal, written it down, and fixed it firmly in mind. Each day becomes a step forward. Even when progress feels small, it is progress nonetheless, and it builds momentum. Picture a great ship leaving port. Without a captain, without a chart, it will drift aimlessly until it wrecks on some unknown shore. But put a captain at the helm, give him a map, a compass, and a destination, and that ship will cross oceans, weather storms, and arrive exactly where it was meant to go. Your life is that ship. The question is, have you taken the wheel, or are you leaving it to drift? Now here's why this matters. Without a worthy ideal, your thoughts have nothing to cling to. The law of thought still works, but it has no direction, so it turns inward, producing worry, anxiety, and aimless repetition. This is why so many people feel restless, even when they have enough to live on. Their minds are powerful engines, but with no clear track to run on, the engine burns itself out. When you choose a goal, however, something remarkable happens. Your thoughts, which were once scattered, begin to line up. Your imagination comes alive with ideas, your energy rises, and the world itself begins to arrange opportunities, resources, and people in ways you could never have anticipated. It seems almost like magic, but it isn't. It's simply the law of cause and effect at work. So let me ask you directly, have you chosen a worthy ideal for yourself? Not a vague wish, not a half-hearted hope, but a clearly defined goal that excites you when you think about it. It doesn't have to be grand in the eyes of the world. A man who resolves to be the finest craftsman in his trade, a woman who determines to raise her children in a home of love and learning, a young person who commits to becoming excellent in their field, these are worthy ideals. What makes them worthy is not their size, but their alignment with your values, your talents, and your best self. Once you've chosen your ideal, the next step is to write it down. Carry it with you, read it morning and night. This is not a ritual for its own sake, it is a practical tool. The mind responds to clarity. When you instruct it daily, in writing, about what you are working toward, it begins to direct your thoughts and actions in subtle but powerful ways. You'll find yourself noticing opportunities you once overlooked. You'll take small, consistent actions that add up to great results. And you'll discover a sense of calm direction that most people never experience, because you know exactly where you are going and why. I remember saying once that a man with a goal runs straight to it like a homing pigeon, while a man without a goal simply wanders, no matter how hard he works. And that's the tragedy of most lives. People are busy, but not effective. They're in motion, but not in progress. They're active, but not advancing. If you feel tired, burned out, or stuck, it may not be because you're lazy or incapable. It may simply be because you're working without an ideal. Choose one, and everything changes. So, as we move forward, I want you to settle this question in your own mind. What is my worthy ideal? What goal can I fix before me that is so clear, so compelling, that it gives meaning to my days? Once you know this law and choose your ideal, the question becomes, where will you place your focus? And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Now that you understand the law of thought and the necessity of a worthy ideal, here's where most people go wrong. They might accept the truth that we become what we think about, and they might even decide on a goal that excites them, but then their attention scatters. Their minds wander back to fear, to doubt, to all the things they don't want, and slowly, almost without noticing it, they begin watering the weeds instead of the corn. That's why focus is everything. Because where attention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, results soon follow. Here's something I've seen again and again. A person sets out to achieve something worthwhile, but instead of fixing his mind on the end he desires, he spends most of his thought worrying about obstacles. He says to himself, what if I fail? What if others laugh? What if I don't have enough time, or money, or talent? And as he thinks those thoughts, he is literally moving toward the very failure he fears. His energy drains, his confidence collapses, and his progress halts. Another person facing the same obstacles holds a different picture. She keeps her focus on the goal, calmly and persistently. She doesn't deny the obstacles, but she refuses to dwell on them. And because she gives her attention to the end, her energy rises, her ideas multiply, and she finds a way around the very problems that paralyze the first person. The mind cannot hold two dominant thoughts at once. Try it. You cannot picture failure vividly and success vividly at the same time. One image will always push out the other. If you give your focus to fear, then fear grows stronger. If you give your focus to your goal, then the goal grows nearer. It's like driving a car. Your vehicle drifts toward whatever point your eyes are fixed upon. Look to the ditch, and sooner or later you'll end up there. Look straight ahead, keep your hands steady, and you'll arrive exactly where you intended. That's why I tell people to guard their attention as they would guard treasure. Because it is treasure. Your focus is the most valuable resource you have, and the world is always trying to steal it from you. People will fill your mind with gossip, with fear, with news of disaster. They will tell you what can't be done, why the odds are stacked against you, and why you should settle for less. And if you give them your focus, you give them your future. But you don't have to. You can choose instead to fix your attention firmly on your worthy ideal, to think about it morning and night, to speak of it confidently, and to let it shape your decisions. Now I know what some might be thinking, but isn't it irresponsible to ignore my fears? Don't I need to face reality? Yes, but facing reality doesn't mean feeding it with your focus. Reality is not static, it is being shaped by your thoughts this very moment. When you focus on fear, you are adding fuel to the very reality you don't want. When you focus on your goal, you are adding fuel to the reality you do want. That's the choice. Every day, every hour. Do you water the weeds or the corn? Picture two builders. One spends all his time inspecting the cracks in the ground, telling everyone why the foundation might not hold. The other spends his time laying stone upon stone, building steadily toward the house he has designed. In the end, one man has excuses and rubble, and the other has a home. The difference wasn't luck. The difference was focus. And let me add, this focus has a remarkable way of multiplying. When you direct your attention to a clear goal, your mind begins to generate ideas, your energy begins to rise, and circumstances begin to align. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly appear. People who can help you seem to cross your path at the right time. It isn't magic. It's the natural result of a mind that's no longer scattered, but unified, disciplined, and aimed like a beam of light. So I want you to ask yourself right now, where has my focus been? On my fears or on my goals? On what I want or on what I don't want? If your attention has been divided, then that explains the divided results you've been getting. But if you'll make the decision today to give your focus wholly and steadily to your worthy ideal, you'll be amazed how quickly your life begins to change. And yet, focus alone is not enough. Because thought and focus, powerful as they are, must be carried on a certain current, and that current is your attitude. Without the right attitude, even clear goals and strong focus can wither. But with the right attitude, the world itself begins to reflect back to you the picture you're holding, and that's exactly what we'll look at next. There is one word that carries more weight than perhaps any other when it comes to shaping the life you will experience, and that word is attitude. If thought is the seed, and focus is the sunlight that directs its growth, then attitude is the soil in which it takes root. Everything you experience in life is filtered through the lens of your own attitude, and the world in turn reflects that attitude right back to you like a mirror. That is why two people can face the very same circumstance. One comes away defeated and bitter, while the other comes away stronger and more determined. The difference is not in the circumstance, but in the spirit with which it was met. Here's something to think about. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. You carry yourself with a smile, a sense of calm confidence, a readiness to listen, and a genuine interest in others. Almost instantly, the people around you respond in kind. Doors open, friendships spark, opportunities arise. Now picture walking into the same room with suspicion written across your face, your shoulders slumped, your mind filled with complaint. People sense it. They keep their distance. The conversation never begins. Same room, same people, but an entirely different outcome. What made the difference? Not luck, not timing, it was attitude. I once told the story of a man who moved into a new town. He asked an old-timer, "What kind of people live here?" The old man looked at him and asked, "What kind lived where you came from?" The newcomer said, "They were unfriendly, dishonest, and small-minded." The old-timer nodded and said, "You'll find the same here." Later, another newcomer asked the same question. Again, the old man replied, "What kind lived where you came from?" This one said, "They were kind, generous, and good neighbors." The old man nodded and said, "You'll find the same here." The moral is simple. The world reflects your own attitude back to you, as surely as a pond reflects the sky above it. Most people never realize this. They think the world is hostile, unfair, or indifferent. They go about with a chip on their shoulder, ready to take offense, expecting disappointment. And then they wonder why the world keeps delivering exactly what they anticipated. But a person who makes the deliberate choice to meet each day with expectancy, gratitude, and a willingness to serve finds a different kind of world. He discovers cooperation where others found resistance, opportunities where others found closed doors, and help where others found indifference. The world did not change, the person's attitude did, and the world simply mirrored it. Now, why does this matter so much? Because your attitude colors every thought you hold, every word you speak, every action you take. A good idea in the hands of a man with a sour attitude becomes poison before it even has a chance to grow. But the same idea in the hands of someone with a cheerful, constructive attitude becomes a seed of opportunity. Your attitude is the atmosphere in which your thoughts either thrive or wither. That's why I call it the magic word. It changes everything it touches. So let me ask you, when you step out of your door in the morning, what do you carry into the world? Do you carry a spirit of gratitude, of calm expectancy, of good cheer? Or do you carry complaint, suspicion, and dread? Because the world you walk into will mirror it back. If you expect the day to go poorly, you will find confirmation of it in every conversation, every delay, every small inconvenience. But if you expect it to go well, you'll be astonished at how often it does. The day bends to the outlook of the one who lives it. I'll tell you this. Attitude is a choice. It is not something handed down by fate. It is not controlled by circumstance. Each morning, you can decide the attitude with which you will meet the day, just as surely as you can decide what clothes you will wear. and like clothing, your attitude is noticed by everyone you meet. It speaks before you speak. It sets the tone long before your words are heard, and it will either attract or repel the cooperation, the goodwill, and the opportunities that are essential to your success. That's why the most successful people in every field are, without exception, those with the finest attitudes. The higher you go in life, the better attitudes you will encounter, because no one rises very high without them. And if you desire to rise, then begin by cultivating your own. Meet the world with a smile, with expectancy, with a willingness to give more than you take, and you will find the world returning the same coin to you, often multiplied. But attitude does not only shape how the world responds to you, it also determines how you respond to the world, especially when the world does not treat you kindly. And that's what we must turn to next, because your attitude during adversity matters even more than your attitude during ease. It's one thing to maintain a good attitude when everything is going smoothly, when business is strong, when health is sound, when the skies are clear. Anyone can smile on a summer day. But the real test of character, the place where attitude proves its worth, is in how you respond when the storm clouds gather, when plans go wrong, when setbacks come uninvited, because they will come. Life never promised us smooth sailing, only that storms will visit, and the way we meet them determines whether we are strengthened or broken by them. Think of the great oak tree in the forest. When the wind blows hard, the tree bends and sways, but it does not snap. Its roots hold fast, its trunk is supple, and though it trembles in the gale, it endures. Contrast that with a brittle branch, dry and stiff, which breaks at the first violent gust. The same storm passes over both, but one survives and grows stronger, while the other is lost. The difference is not in the storm, it is in the constitution of the tree. And so it is with people. Two men can lose their jobs on the very same day. One curses his fate, blames others, and sinks into despair. The other tightens his belt, adjusts his plan, and sets out with renewed determination to find or create better work. One is broken by the storm, and the other is strengthened. The difference is not in the circumstance, but in the attitude. Now, why is this so vital? Because circumstances are often beyond our immediate control, but our attitude never is. You may not control the fact that the market changes, that accidents occur, that disappointments arrive, but you always control the meaning you give those events and the spirit with which you respond. That control is the golden thread of freedom that runs through every situation. If you surrender it, you become a victim of life. If you hold on to it, you become the master of life, even in adversity. Here's a truth worth remembering. Every difficulty carries with it the seed of equal or greater benefit. But most people never see it because their attitude blinds them. They focus on the loss, the setback, the pain, and because they focus on it, that is all they experience. But the person who holds a constructive attitude looks for the seed. He asks, "What can I learn here? What new path does this open? How can I grow stronger because of this?" And because he asks, he finds. Over and over again, history is filled with men and women who turned adversity into triumph simply because they refused to let circumstances dictate their spirit. I want you to consider this. Every great discovery, every invention, every leap forward in human progress has come out of some kind of difficulty. Edison didn't invent the light bulb on the first try. He failed thousands of times. Each failure could have been a final defeat, but he treated it as information, as one more step forward. His attitude turned failure into feedback. Abraham Lincoln faced defeat after defeat in business and politics before ever becoming president. At any point, he could have let discouragement define him, but he refused. He chose an attitude that saw setbacks as temporary, not final. That's what made all the difference. And you might say, but it's hard to keep a good attitude when life seems to fall apart. Yes, it is, but that's precisely why it matters. Because anyone can be cheerful in sunshine, it's the person who can remain steady in the storm who commands respect and, more importantly, who discovers his own strength. Pressure reveals the hidden qualities of metal, and difficulty reveals the hidden qualities of men. It is in those dark hours that attitude shows itself not as a pleasant accessory, but as the very lifeline that determines survival, growth, and eventual victory. So, When life tests you, and it will remember this, your attitude is always your choice. You may not choose the circumstance, but you can always choose your response. And the higher you rise in any endeavor, the more you'll discover that those who stand tallest are not those who never faced adversity, but those who met it with courage, faith, and persistence. They bent, but they did not break. They stumbled, but they did not fall away. They kept their eyes on their worthy ideal, their minds focused, and their attitudes constructive. And when focus and attitude come together, when you hold a clear goal in your mind and meet the world with a spirit of confidence and expectancy, something marvelous begins to happen. Your imagination, that quiet architect of your future, begins to do its unseen work. And that is exactly what we will turn to next. Once your thoughts are rightly directed and your attitude is firmly in place, there comes into play another faculty of the mind, one so powerful and so neglected that most people go their entire lives scarcely using it at all. I'm speaking of imagination. Imagination is the quiet architect of every life, the drawing board on which all futures are designed long before they are lived. Every invention, every work of art, every great business or achievement first existed in the unseen world of imagination before it took form in brick, steel, or ink. And yet most men and women treat imagination as a plaything for children, something to be set aside when the serious business of adulthood begins. Nothing could be further from the truth. Imagination is the workshop of the mind, and the picture you hold there will soon be the life you step into. Think about the engineer who builds a bridge. Before the first shovel of dirt is moved, before the first beam is laid, that bridge exists in detail in his mind. He sees the span, the supports, the flow of traffic, the strength of the structure. The physical work simply follows the picture already drawn. Life works the same way. Before you can live the life you want, you must first be able to see it clearly in the mind's eye. Without that picture, your days scatter like loose sand. With it, they fall into place like stones in a wall, each one supporting the next, until the structure is whole. Now, here's something many people overlook. The picture you hold of yourself, your self-image, is the ceiling on your performance. You will never consistently act in a way that contradicts the picture you carry of who you are. If you see yourself as ordinary, unworthy, or incapable, then no matter what opportunities come your way, you will find a way to shrink back, to disqualify yourself, to settle for less. But if you see yourself as capable, worthy, and prepared for greater things, then you will rise naturally to meet those opportunities. The world responds to you, but only after you have responded to the picture you hold of yourself. Most people allow their self-image to be shaped by others, by careless words spoken in childhood, by criticism from a parent, by ridicule from a teacher, by a few early failures that became cemented into their identity. They replay those old tapes and call it who I am. But you don't have to accept that. You can choose a new image. You can design, in the privacy of your imagination, a picture of the person you intend to become. Not a fantasy, not a wish, but a clear, steady vision of yourself at your best. Confident, industrious, calm under pressure, cheerful in difficulty, and steadily moving toward your goal. Here's how it works. Each morning, take a few quiet minutes. Close your eyes, relax, and see yourself living out the role you've chosen. See yourself at your desk, working with focus and enthusiasm. See yourself speaking with others in a way that commands respect and gives encouragement. See yourself making decisions calmly, handling setbacks with composure, and greeting opportunities with readiness. Don't strain, just let the picture form, and let it repeat, day after day. Soon, without effort, your mind begins to instruct your body, your voice, your posture, your decisions. The image on the inside becomes the pattern on the outside. You've seen this principle at work in athletes. Before the runner ever crosses the finish line, he has already run the race 100 times in his mind. He has seen himself surging forward, felt the strain in his muscles, heard the crowd, broken the tape. And because he has seen it, his body follows. You can do the same in any field of life. See yourself first, and then become what you have seen. Now, I know some may say, but isn't that pretending? Isn't that self-deception? Not at all. Pretending is imagining what is false. This is imagining what is true, true in potential, true in design, true in the laws of cause and effect. You are not lying to yourself. You are giving yourself instructions. You are writing the blueprint. And once the blueprint is written, the builder within begins his work. So let me ask you, what picture of yourself have you been carrying? Is it a picture that lifts you upward, or one that keeps you chained? Because you will never rise higher than the image you hold of yourself. Change that image, and you change everything. Give your imagination a noble task each day, and it will repay you with a life shaped in its likeness. But remember this, imagination alone is not enough. The picture must be coupled with service, because it is through service that the image takes form in the real world. Without service, imagination is daydreaming. With service, it is creation. And that's where we must turn now, the law of reward, the golden measure by which life pays us back in exact proportion to what we give. Now that we've seen how imagination shapes the picture you carry of yourself, we come to the question of how that picture takes form in the world. And here's the simple, unchanging law. Life pays us in direct proportion to the quantity and quality of service we render, and in proportion to how difficult it would be to replace us. That's all there is to it. If you want more, you must first become more useful to more people in more meaningful ways. It's a law as steady as gravity. Yet most people spend their lives hoping for reward without ever giving a thought to the service that precedes it. They want the harvest without planting the seed, the heat without tending the fire. But the order never changes. First service, then reward. Consider this. A man may complain about his wages, grumble about his lack of recognition, and resent those who seem to earn more or rise higher. He convinces himself that the world is unfair, that others are simply luckier or born with advantages he didn't have. But if we look closer, what do we find? We find that his service is ordinary, easily replaced, and lacking the spark of imagination and effort that sets one person apart from another. He has planted little, and yet he wonders why his harvest is meager. The law is impartial, it returns to each exactly what he has given. On the other hand, think of the man or woman who makes it their business to give more than they are paid for. They study their work, they seek ways to improve it, they attend to the details others ignore, they treat people with genuine respect, and they make promises sparingly but keep them faithfully. Over time, their service becomes not only useful but rare, and because it is rare, it becomes valuable. Such a person never has to worry about reward. It comes to them as surely as day follows night, because the world is always hungry for those who serve well. Here's something worth remembering: no matter what line of work you are in the people business. Whether you sell shoes, design machines, teach children, or manage finances, you are dealing with people, and people respond to the quality of the service you render. Treat every person you meet as important, and they are important, as you are to yourself, and you'll find that opportunities and rewards come through them, often in ways you could never predict. A kind word, a bit of extra effort, a willingness to help, these are small seeds, but they grow into friendships, reputations, and doors opening in places you never imagined. Let me give you a picture. There's a story of a man who sold his farm because he believed there were riches to be found elsewhere. He wandered far and wide, searching for diamonds, chasing rumors, exhausting his strength and money, until at last he died poor and disappointed. Meanwhile, the man who purchased his farm discovered, right there in the creek behind the house, one of the richest diamond mines in history. The first man had been standing on acres of diamonds all along, but because he did not see, he did not reap. And so it is with us. We look longingly at opportunities elsewhere, while right where we stand, in the work already before us, lie the seeds of wealth, success, and fulfillment, if only we will serve faithfully and with imagination. So let me ask you, are you giving your best to the work already in your hands? Are you treating each task, no matter how small, as an opportunity to increase the quality of your service? Because the law is simple: if you give little, you will receive little. If you give grudgingly, you will receive grudgingly. But if you give generously, with care, with cheer, with excellence, you will receive in kind, often from sources you could not have predicted. That is why I tell people not to worry too much about where their reward will come from. Do the service, improve it, constantly, and the reward will find you. And here's the best part. Service is always within your control. You may not be able to control the economy, or the whims of management, or the conditions of the marketplace. But you can always control the effort, the creativity, the attitude, and the attention you bring to the service you render. That's your acres of diamonds. That's the mine that never runs dry, if you are willing to dig. So don't sell your farm. Don't overlook the gold lying at your feet. Look closely at the work you already have, the people already in your life, the opportunities already within your reach. There, hidden in plain sight, are the chances to increase your service, to expand your usefulness, to plant seeds that will return to you in harvests greater than you can now imagine. And once you've begun, once you've given yourself to this principle, you'll find the world opening in ways that confirm the law at every turn. But principles are best proven, not merely believed. And that's why I want to leave you with something practical, an experiment you can try for yourself, a test so simple and so powerful that if you give it an honest effort, it will demonstrate in your own life the truth of everything I've been telling you. And that's what we'll take up next, the 30-day test. Now we've covered the law of thought, the necessity of a worthy ideal, the power of focus, the magic of attitude, the shaping force of imagination, and the golden measure of service. But none of it will mean anything to you unless you put it to the test yourself. You can listen, you can nod in agreement, you can even feel a flash of inspiration, but unless you prove this principle with your own life, it will remain just another idea, filed away and forgotten. That's why I want to give you something practical, something you can begin today. I call it the 30-day test, and if you will follow it honestly, it will demonstrate beyond any doubt that you attract what you think, and that your mind is the most powerful instrument you possess. Here's what the test requires. For 30 full days, choose a single, clear, worthwhile goal. Write it down on a small card, nothing elaborate, just a simple, direct statement of what you intend to achieve. It might be an amount of income you wish to earn, a project you wish to complete, a habit you wish to form, or even a change in your character. Whatever it is, write it in positive language, as though it were already being realized. Carry that card with you at all times. Read it every morning when you rise, every night before you sleep, and as often as possible throughout the day. Let it become the constant, guiding picture of your mind. Now here's the heart of the test. For those same 30 days, you must discipline your thoughts. Give your mind permission to dwell only on the goal and the means of reaching it. Refuse to entertain fear, doubt, or worry. When negative thoughts intrude, and they will, don't fight them, don't wrestle with them, simply replace them. Immediately return your mind to the picture of your goal, calmly and confidently. Guard your mind as though it were a bank vault, because it is more valuable than all the gold in Fort Knox. What goes in will come out multiplied. For 30 days, put in only what you want to come out. This won't be easy. You'll discover, perhaps for the first time, just how undisciplined the average mind really is. You'll catch yourself slipping into worry, complaint, fear, or resentment. But every time you do, gently but firmly turn back to your goal. That act of replacing, of redirecting, is the very discipline that strengthens the mind. Think of it like training a wild horse. At first it bucks and resists, but with steady, patient guidance, it becomes obedient and powerful. Your mind will do the same. During these 30 days, go the extra mile in your work. Render more service than you are paid for. Treat every person you meet with cheer and respect. Speak positively about your future and act each day as though success were certain, because it is certain if you persist. You will notice changes small at first, then larger. Ideas will come, energy will rise, opportunities will appear that you never noticed before. The world around you will begin to shift, because the world within you has shifted. I've seen men and women transform their entire lives with this simple test. A man stuck in a dead-end job discovered new ideas for increasing his value, and within months he had moved into a position that doubled his income. A woman plagued by self-doubt replaced her constant stream of negative thoughts with the image of herself as confident and capable, and soon she was leading projects that once terrified her. The circumstances varied, but the principle never changed. Each became what they thought about. Now, you may ask, what happens if I slip, if I let fear in, if I lose focus? The answer is simple: don't quit. Just start again. Pick up where you left off. If you fail once, twice, 10 times, begin again each time. The discipline is not in perfection, but in persistence. Remember, we become what we think about. That is the law. And the 30-day test is your way of proving it, not in theory, not in someone else's story, but in your own experience. So, I challenge you, begin today. Write your goal, carry it with you, guard your mind, serve more, and hold your picture steadily for 30 days. If you do, you will discover for yourself the strangest secret, that you truly attract what you think, and that life is, at last, in your hands. And when those 30 days have passed, when you've seen with your own eyes the difference it makes, you'll know that you've taken the first step toward mastery of your own mind. You'll be ready for greater goals, stronger challenges, and richer rewards, and you'll never again doubt that you are indeed the Doctor the Crossed of Dubinsent, custodian of the most powerful instrument on earth. And with that, we're ready to bring it all together to close with a reminder, a charge, and a vision for what your life can become if you'll continue to walk this path. So now, as we come to the end of this lesson, let me draw the circle closed. You have heard the law. We become what we think about. You've seen why a worthy ideal is the compass by which your life must be steered. You've learned that focus directs your energy, that attitude colors your world, that imagination shapes your self-image, that service determines your reward, and that the 30-day test is the living proof that binds them all together. These are not theories, not clever sayings to be admired and set aside. They are laws, as sure and impartial as gravity. And if you live by them, they will lift you unfailingly to the life you desire. But here's the truth you must carry away. You already own acres of diamonds. Right where you stand, yes, in your present work, in your present circumstances, among the very people you already know, lie the seeds of wealth, happiness, and fulfillment. The treasure is not hidden in distant lands, nor reserved for the lucky few. It is waiting to be uncovered by the one who will think greatly, focus clearly, carry a right attitude, imagine boldly, and serve faithfully. That person could be you, if only you decide it shall be. And so I leave you with this charge. Guard your mind as your greatest possession. Fix it upon a worthy goal. Think about it day and night. Let no fear intrude, no resentment take root, no doubt linger. Replace every negative with its positive opposite. Give more of yourself to your work, to your family, to your neighbors, than you are paid for or asked for. And do it with cheer, with gratitude, with expectancy. For as surely as the farmer reaps the harvest of his field, you will reap the harvest of your mind. You attract what you think, always without exception. So think greatly, think nobly, think persistently. And when you finish this lesson, don't stop here, because what comes next is vital. You now know that you must choose a goal, but do you know how to set a goal so clear, so specific, so magnetic, that your mind will move heaven and earth to achieve it? That's what we'll explore next. If you're ready to learn the exact method, then click the video you see here and let's take the next step together. Until then, remember this: above all, you are the custodian of the most powerful instrument on earth, your mind. Use it as it was meant to be used, and it will carry you unfailingly to the life you've always wanted.